This is our interview with Jim from Morbid Saint. We are so glad that this group is back and better than ever. And I don't care what anyone says. I love that artwork.
Yeah, artwork's good, bitches. Quit your bitching. It's
like
good
your
artwork.
hair, I want it on a bikini.
Exactly. So here it is.
Oh my God, I was so excited. I was like, they're back. They're back. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So what part of Wisconsin are you currently in?
We are in Sheboygan, so we are right in the middle of between Green Bay and Milwaukee.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah.
Right
We've been doing a lot of Wisconsin bands lately. We interviewed Lords of the Trident. We interviewed Last Crack.
Vanishing Kids.
Vanishing Kids. Yeah. So
something about Madison.
There's something about
the water.
Wisconsin is very attractive to us in terms of music.
Have you ever been here?
No.
Oh, I've been there a million times. Yeah, I used to have to fly in there because I used to have to go visit a manufacturing plant in Illinois, like Northern Illinois, and Milwaukee was so much better than ORD, airport. So
yes, yeah, it is definitely.
Yeah, and back then, this is like 10 years ago, they had a guy playing piano in the airport, and they had a used bookstore in the airport, and I just remember thinking, how can you afford to have a used bookstore in an airport? I mean, isn't the rent extortive? Weird. Anyway.
Maybe he got grandfather claused in, like the store was there and they built the airport around it. And like, you can stay.
Because an airport's like the most expensive mall you can be in, basically, So
yep.
It's weird.
Outside of a cruise ship, that's number 2.
I would say so.
For things. So do you remember all the way at the beginning who came up with that great name Morbid Saint? It's kind of like an oxymoron, although I will say I think most saints are kind of morbid.
Actually, Jay, the other guitar player, came up with that.
Okay.
And we've kind of went back and forth because I always get asked it in interviews, and I don't really remember. It had something to do with a Celtic Frost song, I think. Maybe Morbid Tales or something. It was a combination of a couple things he had heard.
Right.
Yeah, it's just kind of, we were looking for a name and he came up with that.
Yeah. It's very good because if you Google it, you're all that comes up. It's not like 9 other references. So
yeah,
once you get Morbid in, typically Morbid Angel comes up.
Yeah.
That way they come first, but once you put the S in, then it usually hits us. So.
Yeah.
I love it.
Did you have any formal music training, or were you like self-taught on everything?
Basically I say self-taught. I don't think that's kind of I don't think anybody's really self-taught because you're always going to learn things from people as you go. But in the sense, yes, I never took any kind of classes or anything like that. So yeah.
No high school band.
No.
No, they didn't have a thrash band in our high school, so
maybe they should have.
Yeah, we were at a friend's house the other day. He had one of those old guitar books, like it was like I think it was Steely Dan or something, how to play. And I remember like I would figure out songs by ear, and I would write them in my little guitar book, and I still have it, and they're all wrong.
They're all wrong.
They're all wrong. Well, like, what was I doing? Trying to do everything by ear back then, So
do you remember when you were younger, kind of the first heavy music that kind of made you go, what is this? I like this.
Most of my early influences, I guess, are, Judas Priest and Maiden and things like that. I'm from a really young age. I got into Kiss right away, when other kids were listening to whatever at that time, the Carpenters and
right, yeah.
whatever. Kiss really, I was really attracted to that. That just, and in that, obviously, once you're into anything heavy or hard rock like that, for us, it just progressed to just kept getting heavier and heavier and faster. And when things like Slayer and stuff like that came out, then that was just, for us, that was a natural progression to go that way.
Yeah. I remember I got the Enigma mail order catalog in the mail, and I remember going through and seeing like the pictures of like Tom Warrior and Slayer over that It was over Jeff Hanneman's wife with the blood.
Yep.
And it was just like, what does this sound like? This has got to be incredible, you know.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
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 Did you have you heard the new Judas Priest album?
Little bits of it, little snippets. I'm not, I'm not, I'm not much up on Priest much anymore since, you know, I think when they kind of wouldn't let KK Downing come back for some things and stuff. I kind of like, you know, I don't think that's right. So haven't really paid much attention to him. You know, I mean, I think, you know, Halford's still able to do pretty good for how old he is. He's doing great.
Yeah.
But you know, even KK's new stuff, I think is all right. You know, it's different, but
Yeah.
I think that you know these guys. I think I'm old. These guys are really old. You know.
Yeah, for 70 some years old, I can't believe what he can pull off. I was like, oh my God,
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't do that if somebody goosed me.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy that they're still able to do that, but they're doing it.
So for you guys, going back to like when you recorded your first demo, it reads like you only had 5 8-hour sessions to get it done. Was for Lock Up Your Daughters, was it like a lot of pressure or did it just come easily?
For the recording or writing. The recording,
The recording.
is very, very easy. Because we recorded it live. So all I always think there's 8 songs on there. There's not. There's 7. But I think we did 5 of the songs we did in just one take. We played them through. They were good. And then the other 2 we had to play again. So realistically, the main recording was done in, you know, a couple hours. But we back then, that's all we did. So we practiced 7 days a week, probably for about 4 years straight, maybe a day off here or there, you know, holidays and things like that. But we basically played 3-4 hours every day, the band, not just individually.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. No wonder you sound so tight. Yeah.
Yeah, so to go in the studio, it was nothing. It's just like practice, you know,
Yeah.
and we played back then. We had a very weird philosophy. We kind of like drank a lot. So we figured if we practiced kind of drunk, we'd be able to play live drunk. I don't know. So it's not really easy to play the stuff when you were completely straight. It was
Yeah.
like easy, you know. It was kind of a
Yeah.
struggle or drinks you had in you, but
That's funny.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like I said, just a weird thing we had because we partied.
It was like, yeah, nice solo. How about you chug 3 of those beers and then try it again? You
and
know,
it probably get right.
he's sober. It doesn't count. Yeah, that's funny.
You could
Yeah,
have made it into a drinking game. All right, shot every time you get it wrong.
yeah,
Do it again.
exactly right.
Right.
Yeah,
And it
that's
would
a possibility.
eventually get better, right? Yeah. No, it was that's all we did back then was we you know, worked the least amount we had to and practiced and partied. You know, it's
Yeah.
pretty much all we really did. You know, we never thought, you know, and I don't want to get ahead of you because I'm sure you might ask some questions that I don't want to answer before you ask them. But we never, you know, we weren't trying to be a big band or anything. You know, this is just what we were doing.
Yeah. Well, it seemed like all the thrash bands that you hear about from that era were on the coast. You know, like Anthrax and Nuclear Assault on the East Coast, and then you had, of course, you know, Slayer, Metallica on the West Coast. What was it like in Wisconsin in terms of like heavy music at that point? I mean, was there who else was there besides you guys?
Pretty much it. That just, you know, there's other bands, but not. There was other bands playing, like Pat, our singer. When we got him, he was in a band. He was a drummer actually, but he sang for them, and they were doing like metal church. You know, there was other bands around doing heavy music. I say heavy. No, nobody was doing really what we were doing.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to make money, I think. You know, you don't. It's this is not the kind of music to be in if you want to make money.
Right. Right. No, I know. What were the reactions like? I'm sure people were like, "Are you guys crazy, or what are you doing?" I mean, you're practicing every day, this
Uh,
crazy music, and you're the only heavy band in the scene. You know.
we went over good at shows that we had. Most of the shows we didn't. It's not, you know, the majority of shows we played back then we set up ourselves.
Oh
So
wow. Okay.
it wasn't you know like now kind of things are a little bit different for us, but we would get down to like Milwaukee and play down there. We did Metal Fest 3 and with Death, and we played with Death and Dark Angel on the Ultimate Revenge 2 tour.
That's great. Man.
So there we're playing with bands that are in similar to what we were doing. But we were really close with a band from Milwaukee called Realm.
Oh, I know them. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
played with them quite a few times. Really cool guys, and they were I thought they were gonna go really far with their music. They had a really good singer. They were all great musicians. But things happened the way they did. But their Endless War album to me is a great album.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was uh, because we set the shows up. It was a lot of people we knew every time we played, so it was always a decent, no big huge crowds, but it was always we just had fun.
Endless War, isn't that the one that had the Eleanor Rigby cover on it? Yeah. Okay. I said that's the band I was thinking of. Yeah, we used to listen to that album when I was in college. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Were your parents like supportive, like getting into a band? Did they come out to shows, or were they just like, all right, do your thing?
Um, Not really. Just in the sense that I technically moved out when I was about 17. So, and even though I have a great, my parents were divorced, but I always had a great relationship with my parents. But I needed to do my own thing. So I was like I look at young kids today, the young kids think they're smarter than you are. They know everything. And that's how I was too. I thought I knew everything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so no, they didn't, never came to see me play or anything like that.
Yeah, I moved out at 18, and I remember a big part of it was because my evening was starting when theirs was ending. You know what I mean? Like I was like, at 10 o'clock, let's get some people over here. And they were like, son, we're going to bed.
Yeah, right.
That doesn't work out very well, you know.
Yeah, I agree with you. It gets to that point where it's like you're another adult. And it wasn't for me till I moved home from college. And, I was used to staying out,
Right.
and then we would, go to a diner or whatever. I remember coming home at like 7:30 in the morning after being out all night. My father going, "Oh, you got up and went to church." And I'm like, "Uh-huh.
Not hardly.
Bye."
That sounds good, old man.
That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Mm.
Yeah, when he finally caught on, it didn't go so well. I think I got my apartment shortly thereafter. But
Yeah.
you know how that goes.
Yeah. So I always wanted to ask you this small Mexican label that Spectrum of Death came out on. How did that come around? It sounds like you guys were really dedicated, but I mean, like what the label, admittedly, I never saw your album on the racks back in the day when I was buying Slayer and Pestilence and Death and all that stuff. So
Yeah, no, we when we got hooked up with Eric Greif, who was the manager of Death, he through Edge Entertainment, um, he hooked us up with that Avanzada Metallica label,
right.
and we were, it wasn't like we had a list of labels we could choose from. We
Yeah.
had one. So we went with it, and we're glad we did, because if we wouldn't have, we probably wouldn't even be talking right now. They did get it out there. They, obviously not as much as it could have been, but they did
Yeah.
what they did, and we were happy with it. We were all for just having an actual physical album that we could hold on to, and um, we got a bunch of free copies of CDs and stuff. And I always tell people now, people always ask, about the Spectrum of Death has such a like a cult following type thing. A lot of people think it's a really good album, and they think it was always like that, but it wasn't back then. When we recorded that album, I tell this to everybody, we couldn't even sell CDs at shows. We had to give them away. It was not received. It took 20 some years of the internet for that album to be what it is now, you know. So
No, I know what you mean. I remember that. I remember going to shows back in the 80s, and Caton from Hyrax was handing out free copies of his Hyrax albums, you know, because he couldn't charge for them, but nobody would have bought them. Yeah.
but right. And it was more important for us to just get them in people's hands, you
Yeah.
know, much as we could. So
Yeah.
you know, it all worked out fine, you know, for us. We, you know, we're happy with, you know, like I said, I think, you know, it's a small little Mexican label. It's very weird. But it helped, you know, it obviously helped us get to where we are now, which is not really anywhere except for the fact that we're, you know, still in Sheboygan with a new album, you know.
Well, it was hard to kind of figure out what happened because you were, there in 89, and then 10 years later, it was kind of you weren't. And there wasn't like a page you could go to find out what was going on, or the internet. So what kind of happened in that time period that kind of caused things to, was it life or?
Well, the original after we recorded Destruction System, right around 96, I believe, the band just split based on, you know, people had, you know, some people had families, things, you know, your life changes, you know, and you got, you know, whether it's a job or whatever. It just, you know, the band doesn't pay bills.
Yeah.
So you got to do what's gonna and look forward to, you know, look at your future and stuff. And everybody just kind of, we just, you know, it was nothing bad. We all, you know, for the entire time I haven't been in a band, I lived literally, you know, half a mile from Jay. I have my whole life. He's, you know, we've talked all the time. So, you know, it was never nothing bad in the band. It just like you said, life changed for everybody.
Yeah.
And the band, you know, like you said, you can't continue to do that and when you have a family that you need to take care of. So it just was kind of mutual that way for everybody. So from 96 till like 2010, the band did nothing really. And then Jay got the band back together in 2010, and he had Pat with him for a little while. I'm not sure. I wasn't around then, so I'm a little vague on some of the stuff. But so he had Pat for a little while, and then Pat ended up moving out of state. So then, you know, Jay lost Pat, and then he just members kind of came and went, you know, different singers and different things, and he kept it going till around a little after 2019, 2020. They kept going, and you know, and things happened in that time. And like I think 15 or 16, Destruction System got another release. But that entire time, you know, Jay always asked me to come back and play because I've always been in contact with him. I was never able to do it. I own my own business, so I ended up selling my business in 2019, and Jay seen an opportunity. The band had, you know, was his band that he had, that version of the band had kind of split. So they were just kind of hanging there, and he contacted me, and Pat actually had moved back to the state. He was real close to us now. He's not in Sheboygan, but he's outside of it. Pat had moved back, and he was up for it. I was game, you know, to go again, and we were able to keep Bob, who had played with Jay since like 2010. His last name is Zabel, in case you're wondering, because I did see your other interview, but everybody gets his last name wrong. Same with DJ. DJ, nobody gets his last name. His last name is Bagamel.
Okay. Yeah, we probably butchered it. Yeah.
Everybody does. They all do. So they were with Jay. DJ was with him for about 5 or 6 years, I think. So they were the last, you know, bass and drummer in the band. And we were able to get them guys back in it. And you know, I said right from the start, it's like I'll come back and do this, but we're writing an album. That's the only, you know, I mean, I there's no other point of just coming back and keep playing Spectrum of Death and Destruction System. So that was right from the start. That was the goal, was to get back into it. And it took us about 6, 7 or so months just to get into a groove, you know, where, you know, I've never played with them guys. I hadn't actually played guitar till this album. I hadn't played guitar for almost 20 years.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it took a little bit to get back into it. So for the first about 6, 7 months, like I said, we're just me learning the old songs, Pat relearning some stuff, and everybody just kind of, we've always had a thing where you want to play off of everybody, and you want to know, you almost know what their next move's going to be, and everybody's got little different timing things, and just all that stuff. So it took a little bit for us to all get used to each other and stuff, and then we started writing.
Did you guys kind of work together, or was there one person who kind of took the lead, or did you kind of just alternate?
For writing.
Yeah, for writing.
Writing, everybody kind of comes up with stuff. And we used right away when we got the band together, I'm like, we got to start a WhatsApp group for the band so we can communicate back and forth and send stuff over. So we were sending little video clips. Everybody would, send little video clips of them playing parts and different things. And I pretty much took everything, and I'll say I kind of built the songs in my computer, just with ideas for drums and stuff that came with them, and I would just throw something together so we had a rough idea of what a song was, how it would kind of sound. Pat would come over and throw some vocals on it, and we would just make changes and just tweak it until we were happy with where it was. So it was definitely a full band, contribution. But I kind of was the one who took the job of putting the stuff together. But then it, like I said, we'd bring it down and we'd listen to it a few times, and this, and even then it's not perfect because DJ's got ideas for drums, but then he needs to, add his stuff in, and same with Bob. Bob took the, I would lay down, very basic parts, and then Bob would be like, yeah, that's fine, but I'm gonna do a lot more with it. So, and he did. So it worked out well. It took us probably a little longer than we had anticipated. It was about a year and a half to write the album.
Did you have like shells of old songs that you built from, or is everything completely new?
Everything's new.
Okay.
Yeah. All the songs all our songs are completely fresh. There might have been, a couple parts that were there from maybe like a year or two earlier or something like
Okay.
that. But otherwise, yeah, it was all the words were written fresh. Everything is made now, because a lot of people ask us about that they say we still kind of have an old school kind of sound to us. But that's just because we're old, and and this is who we are. This is how we play. I mean, time, I
Yeah.
don't changes that. We play the way we play, and we write the way we write. We don't try to write a certain way. We didn't go into this going, we got to write the most brutal shit we can write.
Yeah.
Because if we did, it would have probably been a lot different than it is. We just kind of go in, this is what comes out of us,
It's really, really good. And I've
Thank you.
read so much feedback online where everybody's just going nuts. So
I
definitely whatever formula it was, keep it going.
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, and we've been watching that. We keep an eye on the reviews and stuff. And it's, I try to take the good with the bad, and it is what it is. Some people are gonna like it. It was the one thing we were all, not that it changed anything, but we were very conscious of the fact that people are gonna compare this album to Spectrum of Death. I mean, that just, they're gonna, and we knew that, but we didn't try to do anything different with what we were doing. This is who we are now, and we hoped it would be relatable. We did a couple things intentionally. There are some riffs that are directly related to some riffs on Spectrum, and I know they're there. I don't know if anybody else does, but so otherwise it's yeah, all new stuff.
No, you're right. That's the first thing that people do. I mean,
Yeah.
I was right there when I was a teenager. The first Death Angel album came out, and then that second one with the Kiss cover and all. I was like, okay, the first album was a fucking fluke. Obviously, these guys suck. They're a bunch of boneheads, And of course, Death Angel righted the ship, and they've been great ever since. But
Right.
that's exactly what we do. We say, all right, we made a mistake with the first one.
You know, you had to line them up.
Yeah. Mhm.
Right?
So I tell you, I got Metal Mistress kind of makes metal clothes for women. I had to get, Nunslaughter's Red as the Color of Ripping Death. They have it like in a crop top.
Yeah.
I would get that on a crop top. I'm just telling you, in case you ever think
No.
about partnering with her.
Oh, the decapitations. Yeah. Yeah.
Who came up with that great apocalyptic art?
Oh, I forgot that's behind me. I mean, obviously, I'm sitting in front of a green screen, so I forgot. We, we really wanted to go with the new album for the artwork because the first album, I'm sure you've heard the stories about Spectrum. That was not our idea. When we first seen it, we thought the same thing everybody else did. It looks like Eddie from Iron Man, and but we didn't really have a choice. We had like 4 pictures that the guy, did, and that was the best one. So
Yeah.
we were never happy with it, but it again, it's part of that whole weird thing with that album. It's like we accept it now. It is what it is. And some people like it now. But with this album, we wanted to stay old school, and Ed Repka has always been, half the bands we listened to growing up, he did the artwork for.
Right.
So we thought about it, and I'm like, well, I'll contact them and see if we can, pull something off, and it worked. And we gave him some ideas, and that's what he came up with.
I love it.
And there's a lot of people that hate it.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, there's been a lot of people bashing it. They're like, man, the music's great, but that album cover is horrible. I don't know. I like it. I'm happy. I'm proud of it. I
like that he's very muscly. That was a very 80s. You know what I mean? Like the era of Arnold Schwarzenegger and remember the Jump in the Fire Metallica where the guy looked like he'd been working out in hell and Man of War and all. Like
Right.
I miss the muscly era of metal. Everything had to be musly back in the day,
Did you give him a name, the muscly
The
assassin
muscly,
guy?
yeah.
No.
No, we don't know. Some other people did, but I don't remember. They had somebody online. I was reading a review, and they gave him a whole backstory and shit.
Oh wow. There
all
you
that
go.
stuff.
Okay.
It was funny, but no, we didn't. We're honored to have just the artwork by Ed on there, and that's,
Yeah, I think it's great.
I think he did a great job myself. But we
Yeah,
might get some. We don't have like women's clothing yet with the new stuff on it, but we will.
That's
Yeah,
great.
she does great. I mean, she must only because when I ordered it, I wanted it because we were going to go see Nunslaughter and it took forever. So she must not actually produce them till you order them, and so
Right.
I mean, you can get a Hell Ripper dress if you want and bikinis. So just in case you ever want to partner with her, I'd love that on a bikini. That would be great.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to ask you, you might have told us, I don't think you actually got into this, but how did you get together with DJ? Because he's such a beast on this album. I mean, like, did you know him from back in the day or what happened there?
DJ the drummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was in Morbid Saint for the last like five or so years that Jay had it going.
Okay.
Until they all split in like I said, around 19. And it kind of just needed to take a break, some of them guys. And that was one of the things when Jay and I had discussed, me coming back and Pat and everything, I go, I'm up for it, I'll do it, but we got to be able to get him back. You got to get him, back in the band.
I could see why. Yeah.
He's a machine, and that's always been a thing for us. Fortunately, we've always had, I mean, for me, it's only basically 2, but Lee Reynolds on our first drummer, him too at the time, he was just incredible. He was only 14 when we got him in the band, and he was that good. It was just like, this guy's crazy.
And playing that style of music way back then. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. He was, so that to me, that's always been a big thing. You have to have a really, really good drummer, with this kind of music. I mean, and with DJ, his speed and everything really, it did influence a lot of the way the songs came out. As far as, when we were structuring them and even writing the guitar parts, when you've got a drummer that can play that fast, it actually makes it pretty easy.
I was really excited too. As soon as I saw the album, the first thing I was like, Pat's back, Pat's back.
Yeah.
So it's kind of always been my favorite vocalist. So I guess it wasn't hard to coax him back into the fold.
No, he was ready to go. And he was pretty excited that I was back in the band. And once he found out Bob, we've all known Bob forever. And DJ, it just it for me it's the best lineup we've had. And
Agreed.
for me, I mean, it's just we all get along so good. Way back in the 89, 88, 87 with the original Morbid Saint. We got along good, but there was we were young, so
Yeah.
some people had attitudes.
Yeah.
We're old now. Now I don't have time to have an attitude. So we all get along so good now, and it's great.
So we had a lot of favorite tracks in this album. So I was curious about Burn Pit. I was reading it was inspired by the Stephen Avery case. What were your I'm taking you saw Making a Murderer. What were your takeaways from that whole mess? Guilty, innocent, maybe some of both.
Well, Sheboygan we're about 35 minutes from the Avery salvage yard. It's so weird because when it happened, I remember being on the news and stuff, but it really wasn't that big, of for in Sheboygan here. I mean, you kind of heard about it, but it was, it just seemed weird at the time that it was like all you really kind of heard was, this guy got out of jail. Next thing you know, they find this, he killed some other woman on his property, and they found all, on all the stuff. That's what you heard. When I seen Making a Murderer, for me, I to this day I still don't think he did it. That's me. I just it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense why people are, well, it doesn't have to, he's crazy. And I'm like, why do you think he's crazy? Because the first time he was in jail, they proved he was wrongly convicted, they framed him. So, without getting onto making a murder.
No, I know, but you're right. Then the first thing you do when you get out is murder somebody else. You're right. That was the same thing I was thinking.
Yeah, I'd be really surprised if they actually something came up someday and they actually found definitive proof that he did do it. I would be shocked. I would be shocked.
I felt the same way. I followed his attorney on Twitter. I kept waiting for the day it was going to happen, but it just never did. I was like, really?
Yep, I did the exact same thing. My wife she was just like, you're looking at, because I'd look at, like, there's Reddit groups and all this stuff for that, and I'm just, like you said, Kathleen Zellner comes on there and you're like, oh, now stuff's going to happen. And I still hasn't happened, I guess. I kind of fell away from it just because. But yeah, the song is, I actually wrote the lyrics for that song, and it's loosely based on that. Not completely, because the song actually is about somebody who is killing people. So it fit, the Burn Pit. I always, even back when, I wasn't in a band, and that always was in the back of my head. It's like, that would make a good song, something to write about. And we did it, and we used it, and I love that song. I mean, I love every song in the album, but I really like that song.
One more thing on Make a Murder. I got so into it that I started following a podcast called Wrongful Convictions. And I had to stop listening to it because it was so depressing. It was just like every week it was someone like him that these prosecutors, if they admit that they were wrong in 1983, that's like a black mark on their record. So they won't allow DNA or whatever. So it was just so depressing. I was like, oh, I can't take this anymore. And it was by this guy that was the guy that did it was like this big record company guy, and he had a lot of money. And what he was doing for philanthropy was him and this other guy would help out these people that were wrongfully convicted and couldn't get any help, But the stories were just rip your heart out. I couldn't take it.
Or they have to scrape together their money for their DNA testing and do bake sales.
Yeah, and it just made you lose all faith in our justice system. It was just like, well, we did, why did we need to look at any other suspects? We had Bill, it was just, it was always like that. And then Bill's like, but I was in Alaska that week, Just didn't make
Yeah.
any sense. Meanwhile, Bill's been in jail for now the last 22 years.
Oh, and those police are
That was-
so
That was
picky.
horrible.
I
yeah.
was going
Ugh.
back in the day. I was going through this horrible divorce with my ex-husband, and somebody came and smashed my back patio table. It took a big crap on my deck. I wanted them to DNA test that, and they laughed at me. They're like, "We're not,
Yeah, she was watching a little too much Law and
not
Order.
gonna do that.
Yeah.
We're not- no."
Yeah. You thought you had him. I know. Yeah.
You probably would have.
That's so funny. Oh.
Right. Another favorite track, Swallowed by Hell. I love it. It's super apocalyptic. It kind of made me feel like Walking Dead or The Last of Us. Was it inspired by any movie or actual events? And I like how it kind of ends on a positive note. The strong will not fail.
Um, I wrote most of the lyrics for Swallowed by Hell. That's that song too. Um, the song is literally about everything, kind of everything that's been going on in the world for the last few years. Just I kind of say that there's a lot of evils in the world, especially in the last few years. Just the shit that's been going on is just amazing. And hence swallowed by hell. It's very easy to be consumed by all these evils, and you can interpret that how you want. I kind of prefer people interpret things the way they want, because nowadays, I mean, we just put an album out and I could say the wrong thing and we get canceled, which I think is
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's
No,
just-
I know what you mean.
it's
Right.
just stupid. But realistically, it's actually about a lot of stuff that's been going on in the world. I mean, there's fires burning everywhere, chaos all around. I mean, that's all, and all the riot stuff, and it's really, that's what that song is about. It's if you listen to it and read the words, it's about what's been going on in the world for the last few years, just phrased different, I
Yes.
guess.
It's impossible for me to like think of like, your hometown getting invaded, it's just like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it
yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
How about, I want to ask you about Pine Tuxedo. That sounds like something like Joe Pesci would have said in Goodfellas or something. Let's get him a Pine Tuxedo. Is that a phrase somewhere, or is that just something you came up with?
Pine Tuxedo, Pat wrote the lyrics for that one.
Okay.
I kind of always have a little bit of part in the lyrics. I may have to change things just to make them work with the way the song, the structure is going. So I always kind of have tweaks in there, but he came with Pine Tuxedo, and he made us all think that this is like a thing. He's like, "You guys never heard of a Pine Tuxedo?" And we're all like, "No,
Yeah, I think
You
it
don't
might be a
know what-
phrase somewhere. Yeah.
no idea what you're talking about, Pat." He's like, "Oh, you guys are crazy." I can't. Well, I looked it up, and I came back to the next practice. I'm like, "You're full of shit." I go, I looked up on the internet. I can't. It's nothing online about it. He's like, "No, I just made it up." I'm like, but
Oh,
yeah,
that's
so
great.
Pat came up with the Pine Tuxedo, and it was kind of weird at first. It's like, but it kind of grew on us, and yeah, I love that song too. I love playing.
Yeah, it's great.
I love the beginning. I love playing the solo at the beginning. Yeah, that song turned out really good, I think.
I like songs that have guitar solos in the beginning.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah.
So do I.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have an idea. If you shoot a video for it, I think it should be like an old Western with the pine boxes lined up. You guys can have a little shootout.
Yeah.
That's kind of on lines of what we've actually discussed, kind of. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
You want to do this?
Oh, okay.
All
We're
right.
hop-
So
we're- oh, go ahead.
we play a game on the show.
Oh boy.
It's called Blaspheming Monikers. Okay. And the idea of the game is I have 5 band names in front of me. 4 I got off of Metal Archives. 1 is made up. So I want you to try to guess which one is fake. One of these is not a real band. And we'll just keep guessing until either you get it right or we run out of bands. So, okay. All right, here we go. Number 1, Serpent Column. Number 2, Booze Serpent. Number 3, Serpent Coven. Number 4, Grave Serpent. And number 5, Civil Serpent.
So 4 of them are real.
4 of them are real, legit. Yeah,
Cool.
1 of them's fake.
I'm gonna start with 3 is fake.
No, Serpent Coven is witchy doom metal from Brazil. They only have 2 EPs, but they're real.
Wow.
So that leaves Serpent Column, Booze Serpent, Grave Serpent, and Civil Serpent.
Booze serpent.
Which one?
Booze.
They're real. They're from Turkey. Black and death metal. They have 1 full length and 2 EPs.
They use the shot method too while they're recording. No, I made that up.
Wow, apparently. All right, what's left?
Serpent Column, Grave Serpent, and Civil Serpent.
Brave.
Yep, that's it. You got it. There you go. Yeah.
That's pretty
I think
bad.
Civil Serpent. I can't believe
The
somebody
worst
called their
name.
band that. They're from South Dakota.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Well, anyway, yeah.
That's,
So no, you did pretty good.
well, I got right
Yeah.
there.
Sometimes people get them right away. Other times I can have like 4 people on the call and no one's getting it. So, you never know.
So the other 4 bands, they're real, and then you just make another one up that kind of
Yeah. 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 It's a very popular. Yeah. Because I mean, like I am fascinated by a couple things on Metal Archives, like 6 bands with the same name that are present. That makes no sense to me because it's so easy to verify. Now, why would you want to do that? And also bands that have these terrible names that took 5 minutes and they put their whole future on it. Just I don't get it.
We were in the High Roll Records PR guy Dustin. He been driving me nuts for the last couple of months. We just played a show in Houston, Hell's Heroes, and I got to meet him down there. And I told him that I'm like, man, the amount of interviews that he had me doing. I mean, I was doing like 7 interviews in like 3 days at one point.
Oh wow,
it's crazy. And I'm like, dude, I do work and stuff. I'm not just sitting around
right,
waiting to do interviews. And but he's a great guy. But he ended up getting it somewhere to this Zach. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Zach Moonshine.
I don't think so.
He's from down in I think that's the Tennessee, something I can't remember, down south somewhere. But he's got a radio show and they have a festival and stuff down there. But he has on their website for the radio, they have a contest for Band of the Month. Band of the Week, and then if you win Band of the Week, you can be Band of the Month, and then if you win that, you get like a bunch of PR stuff and winning.
Right.
Well, Dustin put us in that, so you can vote. You go on there and vote, and I looked at that, and we were like every week we were on there, we were up against like 20 bands, and some of these bands, the names, I'm like, this can't be real because I can't. There was one Lesbian Bed Death.
Oh yeah, we actually just reviewed them on our rock and roll show.
Yeah.
They're very old school rock and roll. They really are.
They're an actual band.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're real.
we
All right.
actually we
Yeah.
reviewed them on our rock and roll show because this is the extreme show. We have the rock and roll.
I have a
show.
feeling that we'll be interviewing them probably next month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've got
thought-
a great song.
But the phrase lesbian bed death is not actually sexy at all. It's about lesbians that have stopped sleeping together.
no,
They're
it,
tired of
lesbians,
each other.
it's a theory that lesbians in a committed relationship have less sex
Right.
than any other like form male female combination that you can put together.
Yeah, so it's not as sexy as it sounds.
I'd be willing to disagree with that because I am married.
It's just that it was somebody's theory at some point. He heard it and it was like, okay.
What was the
Wow.
one that John from Blackberry laughed at?
REO
REO,
Rape Wagon.
there's a band called REO Rape Wagon. I mean, come on. That was one that made my eyebrows go up. Like, who's thinking, wow, we're going to get on FM radio with that moniker, Come on.
Holy shit. I'm still amazed that Lesbian Bed Death is an actual band.
They have like 8 records. They've been around for 9. They've been around forever, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, you ought to check out some of their videos. It's full of a lot of like, they must have got a discount on like the fake blood because it's in everyone.
Yeah, true.
We did compete against them in that, whatever, but
That's funny.
we won that, by the way. So,
Oh, good.
So how was Hell's Heroes you were talking about? What were kind of your best and worst memories from doing that festival?
Um, the worst, it was everything about it was really good. We didn't really, well, the flights were a little messed up for us. Um, sound was bad for us, but that's kind of a given with monitors. The monitors were just it was I was kind of hoping it would because the festival's run great. Christian Larson runs it, and it everything about it is really good. I guess they had some problems with merch. They only had like 2 people selling
Oh,
band
good
merch for
Lord.
like 18 bands or something.
Oh wow.
So it
Okay,
was
yeah, I bet that was a
lines.
mess.
Yeah, the lines were long or something like
The whole
that.
separate mosh pit.
Yeah, it was out of hand, and it rained really bad Thursday. We played Friday, so it was pretty muddy. But it was really bad on Thursday, I guess. But yeah, it was pretty much just the mix was. I expected it to be better. We had a horrible monitor mix. Couldn't hear a damn thing. So it's really hard. It's hard for us to play at the speed we play at. And it's probably hard for anybody at any speed, but especially at this, the way we play, you have to hear everybody. I need to, I couldn't hear drums at all. Well,
Yeah, oh, that's
that's
bad.
kind of
Yeah.
what you stay on with. So that was the worst part about it. Everything else was great. We got to meet a lot of people. It was nice because we played at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the outdoor big stage. So it was great to be able to get that done. We actually packed our stuff up. They drove us back to the hotel. We walked back, and then we got to spend the whole day there and watch all the other bands and drink and talk to people and stuff. So it was kind of nice playing in it because we won't nowadays we won't drink before we play. So it's completely different than how it used to be.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
We used to want to drink. I still want to drink before I play, but I just know it's not. It doesn't work the way it used to.
Yeah. Yeah,
Playing
yeah.
is like it ain't working.
Yeah.
So it worked out well, and like I said, we met a lot of great people. It was a great festival. We had a good time. I wish we could have stayed for. I really wish we would have played on Saturday because all the thrash bands were on Saturday. Sodom and Demolition Hammer, they were all on Saturday. We were like one of the only kind of thrash bands on Friday, which it is what it is. But I wish we would have been able, and we then Queensryche headlined Friday, so we got to see, even though it's not the original band, but um, they were really good, and no, it was a great time. But glad
I
we're
saw
glad
some live video of it. You guys, I mean, obviously it wasn't the best audio, but you guys, the crowd reaction was good. It looked like you guys were really killing it.
it's perception is yeah. I mean, I can't say it sounded bad to the crowd, but just for us, it was a struggle. When you struggle to play it, you you lose that like I had a really good time on stage. Everything sounded great, and everything was awesome. But when you're struggling, you have to pay attention so much that you kind of forget really, that you
Yeah.
can't really look at the crowd and interact with them in any way because you're just so concentrated on trying to stay together and that, so that you lose some enjoyment, I guess, when it's like
Mm.
so for us it's not as fun. When Morbid Saint first started, we were basically a cover band. So we
Okay,
played
right.
a ton of Slayer, Exodus, Megadeth, we played all that stuff back then.
Yeah.
So we played a lot of these songs, and I was standing there going, I can't tell what song they're even, but what song is this? I could not, literally couldn't, it sounded so bad.
Yeah.
Really? But Overkill played
Yeah.
before them and they sounded great.
The best thing about a Megadeth show is Dave calling people out. It's not as much about the music. It's him going, you with the laser pointer. This is what happens when cousins fuck.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the best part about a Megadeth show.
Yeah.
And when he was on Headbangers Ball and he would fuck with Ricky Rockman, I loved him. I was like total man crush for Dave Mustaine back then. He was the greatest. Like 94, 95. Oh, I loved it. Yeah.
So you guys are headed to Italy?
Possibly.
Yeah?
Okay.
We really want to do that show because one of my favorite bands is Overkill.
Okay.
I've just been a big Overkill fan.
Yeah,
And we would be playing like 2 bands before them. So I really want to do it. But logistically, I don't know if it's gonna work. Right now we are on that show. But it has to, we have to be able, we've got to be able to get there.
Yeah.
And with flights and you know, the cost, we just found out going to Houston, just some of our oversized gear that we brought along it was just crazy.
No, I believe it. Yeah, I know.
Ship this stuff,
The cost is just ridiculous
it
nowadays. Yeah, I
is.
know. Yeah.
It's so I haven't talked with them yet. But I'm gonna talk to the band on Thursday and then we're gonna make a decision. I really hope we are doing it. But we just gotta figure out if we wanna, you know, we're not about making money, but we are definitely against.
Oh yeah, you don't want to lose a huge amount of money, and everybody's got day jobs. I'm sure that they have
It'd
to.
almost be
take
worth
time
it
off
to
work.
try to book a couple more shows,
Well,
somewhere.
and that's one of the problems with, people always ask us if we're gonna tour and stuff. We're not a touring band. We can't physically, we just can't we can't. It doesn't work because, like you said, we all have jobs.
Yeah,
We don't just hang out and wait for shows. So, we, with some of the shows that are coming up, we're playing in the Czech Republic. That one's for sure. That one we got to take, we're losing how many days of vacation. Everybody loses days of vacation every time we do these shows. We're coming to New York later in the year. And PA, and I think we're coming by you guys on that same weekend.
Yeah.
Where are you coming to?
Did you say you're in Washington?
Well, we're in
Baltimore.
Baltimore, but Washington's close.
Baltimore. Okay, we're coming to Washington somewhere.
Okay.
Somewhere there's
Gotcha.
we're playing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Saturday's New York, Thursday's PA, and Friday is somewhere up in around Washington, somewhere.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
so we're losing, like I said, we only got so many days of vacation you can take, and
I know.
so
Well,
that's
not everybody can afford to like do the anvil thing and go get paid in spaghetti dinner or whatever.
right.
Like.
Yeah,
Well, they paid. Well, they fed us. I mean, hey, so what?
right. Yeah. So we're logistically we're looking at if we can still, like I said, we told them we would do it. But there's no contracts or anything right now.
Right.
And it, we understand if we had the time and we could, like you said, if we could go there for a week or two and string some shows together,
Yeah.
we would easily be able to do that because we keep getting offers for more shows like Barcelona, Barcelos, whatever. We've got some other offers to play over there, but we just can't. Overkill's going to be there. They're on a European tour or whatever, so for them it's fine, works great.
Yeah.
But just to do one-offs like that, it's either it's going to cost them a lot. They got to really want us because it's going to cost them a lot. Or we got to be able to string shows together, and right now we just can't.
15 years.
Well, keep with the muscly covers, please. Please. Yes. We're big fans.
I guess we'll have to see how much more shit we get for this one.
Yeah. And also the first thing I thought when I saw was like, it's the color scheme of Nuclear Assault Game Over. It's that orange and
Very
really
eye-catching.
pops off the racks, Yeah.
Because Ed did a lot of Megadeth's early albums too. He did some Megadeth, and it's almost that same kind
The
of
peace cells, right.
and the Rust in Peace, I think, is kind of some of these. It's all these different colors that he likes to use. So, but I'm for me, he said Repka. What are you gonna?
Right.
I mean, we hired you. It's like we hired him for a reason. We didn't hire him for us to tell him what to do. We wanted what comes out of him.
What do they not like about the cover? I mean, it's a thrash metal album, and
Perfect.
I don't know.
What are the complaints like?
They just say it's ridiculous. I don't know. I don't see it myself. I mean,
No, I don't either.
Look how popular Walking Dead is, and all they do is go around stabbing people in the head in that show. Come on.
which side is the other one? What's on that side?
Yeah, that's Spectrum of Death that you're pointing to now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Destruction and Swallow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't see it so good.
Yeah.
I like that better than that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Spectrum of Death always reminded me of what's that Italian band, the with the coffin picture? I forget that it's got an actual dead body in a coffin and it's shriveled up the skull like that. I can't think of the name of the band, but that's what it always reminded me of. So But you never know. I guess that's cult. And oh, speaking of this, I might as well. This is funny. You were talking about getting the name of the band wrong.
Oh,
We did a review of a band. All right, the name of the band, it's spelled VLTIMAS, right? So we were like, Litmas, okay. And we did this whole review, right? And then the PR guy comes back the next week and goes, it's actually Ultimus, ULTIMAS, but it's just a V in the front.
I was like,
And
"Are
I
you
was like,
kidding?"
oh well, I guess we look like idiots. You know?
Well, I, you know,
We
I,
didn't get a phonetical.
Had to go all cult with the V.
I'm one of the people because I mean, I like people always ask me too if I like death metal. I don't prefer death metal. There's some that I do like, and most of the death metal I do like is old, like actual death.
Right.
You know, I think the old death to me is great. That's
Yeah.
the definition of death metal. You know, the stuff that is just so brutally low, I can't understand anything you're saying. And the one thing that really bothers me, and just me, I'm old, whatever. I cannot, I don't, it doesn't make any sense to me why people have logos that you can't read.
Oh,
It's
Yeah.
like a thing in death metal to have the most messed up logo that you can't. I mean, I have
I'm gonna send you. I'll send you a link to one. There's this band. They're called like Keys to the Astral Gate or something. Their logo looks like someone drew a map of a city. It's ridiculous, and it's
That's-
like huge. Yeah. So I'll
There's-
send it to you. It's the most extreme, but I know what you're talking about. You're like,
I-
there's no way I can pronounce that. And,
I can't, you know, I've got a buddy who's a big death metal freak, and Maryland Death Fest, I think it was a few years back, Blood Incantation played.
Oh yeah, that one's really hard to. It looks like scribble. Yeah.
He
yeah.
sent me a picture because he knows how much I like BC Rich Ironbird guitars, and they both play them. You know, so he sends me a picture while he's there, and I'm like looking at it going, I text him back, I'm like, what's the name of the band? And they got a huge banner with their logo on it. And I'm like, what the, you know, and then he tells me, and I'm looking at the logo going, I can't, even when I
Right.
know it, I can't see it. It just,
Right.
I don't get
It's
that.
sort of like those. Remember those? They used to have those pictures where
Yeah,
it looked like a bunch of dots, but if you looked at a certain way, you're like, oh, it's a ship, or oh, it's a clown, or yeah, it's sort of like that, right? I guess.
right. But people
All I
like it.
see is a bunch of lines. Yeah.
Yep,
I
don't.
I got a bunch of shirts from this company, and it just looks like it's a like a death metal logo, but it really isn't. It's just, and I'm always like, you don't know this band?
Yeah.
It's just this
Yeah.
company.
We
that sells
we
those.
we interviewed John from Incantation, and he did blaspheming monikers, and he was intrigued by the fact that I was making up band names. He said I should get patches made up of fake bands. He said that would be the ultimate hipster thing to do, is to be like, what do you mean you never heard of them?
The idea with the shirt would be great because I would get my buddy big time if I had a shirt that was just not
Right,
me, but
right.
it's a band. Oh, you never heard of them?
We never heard of Pilsner Wolf. Come on, come on. Yeah.
Yeah, we had this fake character on the show for a while who would call in, and his name was Stu Manchu, and his band was Stu Manchu and the Overalls. So my coworker had watched it, and he's the one who calls in, but we changed the voice. So I said, "Come on, Rachel, you know who Stu really is." And she's like, "Oh, I've heard of him." I just let her go.
Whatever.
I was like, "Sure,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
Stu Manchu and the Overalls. They
Right.
do all Captain and Tennille covers. They're very popular."
Ugh, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's fun messing with the mainstream people. What can I say? So.
That's funny. We have that same little microphone guy in our practice area.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. His center of gravity's off. I had to tape him down.
Yeah, ours is like laying on the floor constantly because he can stand up.
Yeah, it's really top heavy.
Yeah, they didn't design. They should have made a stand or something for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Another fine made Brazilian product, I guess. Whatever. Yeah.
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.